What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for NFL Week 5, Week 6 Power Rankings. Post Week 5, entering Week number 6 of the 2022 NFL season. It is time to rank every single NFL team from number 32 to number 1. Every team in the NFL, according to me. My honest opinion about your favorite team. So before I get started, guys, don't forget to spike the like button and support the channel. Help the algorithm. Help people find this video. Also, don't forget to spike the notification bell to be notified when I go live. And also subscribe if you are new for weekly NFL Power Rankings here on the Bottom Line View. These power rankings, of course, guys, are influenced by only me. Just me. What I see with my own two eyes. That is what it's influenced by. And it's a combination of how I feel about your favorite team right now in this moment in time and how I feel about them trending forward. I'm not looking to the past. I don't really even care about the records. I throw that out the window. I care about the here and now, and I care about the rest of the season. That's what I care about. So if that sounds good, guys, let's get started. Hello to everybody in the chat. Hello to everybody that's spiking the like button. Let's get going. Power ranking time. Okay, so at the Patreon, okay, we have some great exclusive content going on right now. Before these power rankings, I gotta let you know what's going on. Weekly NFL bets on the Patreon. If you're wondering where do you get access to my bets and my betting info, I just posted earlier today my early bets for the week. Check out Patreon. Link is in the description. If you want to know where you get the exclusive streams, we had one for Monday Night Football, Raiders Chiefs, a lot of fun. Patreon, okay, link in the description. Check it out. All right. At number 32, we've got a number 32, a new 32, and it's the Carolina Panthers. And the reason is because of how this team is trending. And I wasn't going to rank them number 32, to be honest with you, just because of the quarterback thing, because PJ Walker, he's not great. He's clearly a backup in this league, but Baker Mayfield is a disaster. It doesn't really matter who takes over for Baker Mayfield. It wasn't going to be much worse than Baker Mayfield and what he was giving this football team already. So I'm actually not that down on the Panthers due to the quarterback thing. I'm down on the Panthers due to the switch at coach and the madness that has caused. Steve Wilkes, who formerly, I believe, was the head coach of the Cardinals at one point, is now going to head coach this team. So at least there's a guy that's had experience doing so. But they lost their best coach. They lost Phil Snow. That kind of went right under the radar. They lost their defensive coordinator, Phil Snow, who, pretty good defensive coordinator, in my personal opinion. So that definitely hurts their power ranking. On top of that, just a lot of transition this week. And then on top of that as well, you have a team that everybody's talking about, oh, are they going to trade DJ Moore? Are they going to trade Christian McCaffrey? Who are they trading? It seems like this team is all in for a top pick. That clearly will have an impact on the players and how much effort they put forth. So I'm putting the Panthers at number 32, personally. That could change. At number 31, moving up in the power rankings, just one spot, the Houston Texans, who were the number 32 for basically the entire season so far. But the Texans finally got a dub. They got the dub. They will not go winless. They beat Jacksonville in a game that I didn't think they would beat Jacksonville. So I got to give them credit for that. They go on the road. They're 7-point dogs, 7.5-point dogs. They go in there, they win. Straight up. By 7 themselves. That's pretty impressive. Now, the Texans, they still are not a super talented team. They certainly do not have an explosive offense. They do not have a devastating defense, but I do feel they're competitive, and their defense, I think, is the side of the ball that's more underrated. The secondary continues to play well. They don't give up a lot of big plays. They make you earn it. And on offense, they run the ball well. And their offensive line plays pretty solid across the board. Brandon Cooks, Davis Mills, they have that connection. Cooks hasn't had the best season so far, but I'd look for him to trend forward now that I've traded for him on my fantasy team. So I got the Texans at number 31. At number 30, we got the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are at number 30, and it's mostly because they pretty much got handled in that game by the Vikings in the first half. They were able to surge back, make that one competitive. They fought. I give credit to the Bears. They fight. They bring it every week, and they respond to their coach. And they're opening it up a little bit more on offense. Justin Fields is throwing the ball down the field a little bit more, just throwing the ball in general a little bit more. But I do look at Justin Fields, and through his first 2 seasons of what we've seen, he doesn't appear to be the guy. He doesn't appear to be the answer. And as much as last year when he was drafted, I wasn't super high on him. Then when I saw him play, I certainly saw upside for what he could possibly be. And it just feels like he's been trending downward this season. And I don't think he plays with a lot of confidence, composure, or consistency. Darnell Mooney made a phenomenal catch last week, which was awesome to see. David Montgomery was back, which obviously helps the football team. They've got a 1-2 punch at running back. We'll see what the good old N'Keal Harry can do now that he's activated off IR, but this is not a very good team in terms of passing the football, in terms of protecting the passer. Defensively, they're fine, but they're nothing special. They've got a young defense for sure. So the Bears are at number 30. They compete, but they're not very good. At number 29, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers continue to move down on my power rankings. I want to give Mike Tomlin the benefit of the doubt, but this team is maybe even worse than I thought they would be, and I was not very high on them. And this offseason, guys, people were telling me, you can't have the Steelers with a losing record. What type of madness, what type of garbage are you spewing around here? We've got the great Mitchell Trubisky, and we drafted Kenny Pickett. But, hey, Ben Roethlisberger retired, man. Ben Roethlisberger retired. Are you going to put some respect on the name of Ben Roethlisberger? I told you, the year after they lose Brady, the Patriots regress. The year after the Saints lost Drew Brees, the Saints regress. The year after the Steelers lose Ben Roethlisberger, Hall of Fame, they regress. Okay? TJ Watt's been hurt. That's hurt the defense. They've got some good players on defense, but it's not a cohesive whole. They do have major weaknesses in the secondary, specifically at corner. They are not very good overall. The way that they would be defending the run because they have that one edge that can be exposed. So, an offense, their offense is just despicable. It's despicable, guys. They have no running game. Their offensive line can't get a push. Najee Harris is the most overrated player in the NFL. And, yeah, okay, George Pickens is nice. Okay, I like Deontay Johnson, but Kenny Pickett hasn't done anything for my liking. So, I got them at number 29, man. They stink. At number 28, the Washington Commanders. Commanding this power ranking to rank them low. The Commies are at number 28. And the biggest reason they're at number 28 is because Carson Wentz just got thrown right under the damn bus by his head coach, Ron Rivera. But despite that, Washington has actually been... last week I thought they were pretty competitive in a game versus Tennessee. It was close. It was down the wire. It went down to the 1-yard line. They weren't able to convert that. Carson Wentz, at least he's throwing for some big yardage every once in a while. 300 yards. They can push the ball down the field. They can make plays on offense. So they're not a total disaster. They're not the Panthers. They're not the Steelers offensively. So I rank them a little bit higher because of that. Defensively, they can stop the run fairly well, but they cannot stop the pass for a lick. Their coaching is horrendous. Ron Rivera has to look himself in the mirror and say, hey, buddy, coach better. And Jack Del Rio, I don't know how this man is still in the NFL. He is absolutely horrendous. The Commies are at number 28. They've got problems, but they also are a bit better than the bottom tier. At number 27, the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions continuously move down, but I will say this about the Lions. They're dealing with a ton of injuries. So that kind of has them like teetering on my power rankings. I think you could make me buy into the Lions being like number 30, for example, but I'm not going to move them that low just because the injuries that they've had to overcome. You know, they're dealing with these injuries on offense, on the offensive line, at wide receiver, at running back. They're having to deal with massive injuries on the defense. So Dan Campbell, to me, he's a great guy. He's a seemingly good leader. He's got the vibes, the culture going. But how does the team respond to him when he continuously is putting them in positions to lose games? I mean, he lost the Vikings game single-handedly. He was terrible in the Patriots game, purely outcoached by the mastermind himself, the hoodie, Bill Belichick. And I just want to know, like, are Lions fans still bought into this guy? Because, I mean, he's exciting, he's fun, but is he actually good? I don't know. Jared Goff, he's Jared Goff. We know this. Stop buying into the hype of him throwing for 300 yards against the Seattle Seahawks. Nobody cares. At number 27, the Detroit Lions. At number 26, the Seattle Seahawks. Tessa's Seattle Seahawks. At number 26, I have the Seahawks at 26 because Geno Smith is balling, bro. He is absolutely balling. Geno Smith is playing great football. He's playing efficient football. Who would have thunk that the Denver Broncos should have traded for Geno Smith? Who would have thought? But DK Metcalf is playing phenomenal right now. He's playing like a legit alpha dog. Tyler Lockett's Tyler Lockett. Kenneth Walker, I'm excited to see him in a first, second, and third down role in Seattle with Rashad Penny getting hurt, unfortunately. But Kenneth Walker's an absolute monster, guys. So watch out for him. And then the offensive line is playing a lot better than anyone would have ever thought. The defense, they're terrible. I mean, they can't do anything well. They especially are terrible against the pass. They can't defend anything. They had troubles with Taysom Hill last week. But they are very young. Pete Carroll's got to do a better job on that defensive side of the ball. The funny thing is, if people would have told me that Seahawks with Geno Smith were scoring 30 points a game, I would have considered them for the playoffs because I would have thought that Pete Carroll would figure out the defense to a certain degree. But it just doesn't appear that they can figure that out, and that's his side of the ball. So Pete Carroll needs to do a better job on his side of the ball if he wants to keep that job at number 26. At number 25, the New Orleans Saints. I got the Saints at 25. They're not a very good football team. The offensive line did play better against Seattle, but again, that was against Seattle. I feel like preschool kids could block the Seattle Seahawks defensive line. Taysom Hill, you got to get him more involved. He's just such a big-time playmaker, man, especially in short yardage. I don't know why he's not in more of these situations like a Lamar Jackson or a Cam Newton-esque player. You got to give him the ball. And then Chris Olave's been fantastic. He did leave the game last week, I believe. The running game has been okay. I just look at the Saints offense and I feel like they're really good against really bad defenses. They can put up like 30 plus points against below average defenses, but whenever they play a good defense, they struggle to score. So I think that trend continues. On defense, they are extremely underwhelming. Without a doubt, the most disappointing defense this season. They can't get a consistent pass rush. Their run defense is still pretty good, but not as good as it was. And they do look a little bit older, and it does appear that Dennis Allen, not being just the DC, has stretched his attention thin. So at number 25, I've got the Saints. At number 24, I've got the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos lost to the Indianapolis Colts. That's basically where I can end this conversation. They lost to Matt Ryan with half an arm. It's absolutely embarrassing. Russell Wilson looks terrible, awful, horrendous, garbaggio, and now he's injured. The offensive line is getting beat up. Garrett Bowles, gone. Javonte Williams, gone. Justin Simmons coming back. Fantastic. The defense is really, really good, especially if Randy Gregory can come back. But this offense is so down bad. It is ridiculous. They cannot score points. And if you're not scoring points, especially in this division, you are not going to win very many games at number 24. At number 23, I got the team that beat the Broncos on that absolutely horrendous Thursday night football matchup that put everybody to sleep. Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson. Now, the Colts, I have a little bit more faith in them than the Broncos just because we've seen Frank Reich be able to turn it around, but I don't have a lot of confidence in this offense. They can't really push the ball down the field. They can't create explosive plays. Their offensive line is really, really, really bad. I mean, they got absolutely dummied against the Denver Broncos, and that was without Randy Gregory in that game, guys. They can't run the ball as well. Alec Pierce looks good, but that's the only upside to this conversation. I mean, if Alec Pierce can combine a nice 1-2 with Michael Pittman, then maybe we're talking about an improved passing game, but that offensive line's got to be able to hold up for a pocket passer who has a noodle. So the offense is real lousy, but the defense does compete. They play hard, they're tough, they're physical. Stephon Gilmore's playing out of his skull. The defensive line is very, very good, and they can stop the run. I think the Colts defense gives them a shot in most games, but their offense just doesn't at all. So at number 23, I got the Colts. At number 22, I've got the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals, for whatever reason, keep sticking around. They keep fighting. They keep covering games, and they're starting to make me angry because every game is the same for them. Every game is the same. It starts out the way I thought the whole game would go. You know, they play the Eagles, they're down 14-0 or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden, Kyler Murray just starts scrambling around, and then they get themselves right back in the game, and they have a chance to push it to overtime versus arguably the best team in the NFC. So that's just the type of team the Cardinals are. A frustrating team to watch, a very difficult team to get behind. Their coaching right now, Cliff Kingsbury's got to go. But I will say that the defense is playing above their heads. They're playing good football. They consistently have good game plans. They have creative blitzes. You've got to credit Vance Joseph for getting a lot more out of less with that defense. They don't have a lot of superstar names. They don't even have a lot of above average names. The offense, though, is underwhelming. Maybe when they get D-Hop back, they'll be where they want to be and they'll make a run at the end of the year, but that's counting on a lot for one player to add. So the Cardinals are not a very good team right now, but they continue to be in games, which I've at least got to give them credit for against good teams. At number 21, the Atlanta Falcons. I got the Falcons at 21. I'm not really moving them much. I think I moved them down one spot. They lost to the Bucks. They didn't have Kyle Pitts, who I didn't think played on the team regardless. And Cordero Patterson, who's a real superstar, a real freak of nature, not that Kyle Pitts fella, was out of the game as well. So you got to give them some props for at least fighting back in the game. They were thoroughly dominated for 3 quarters. I went back and watched that game today. Thoroughly dominated for 75%, but then they were able to actually make a game of it, so much so that ESPN and Fox and everybody else was talking about Tom Brady and that penalty actually deciding that game. So you got to give the Falcons credit. Arthur Smith is one of the coaches of the year, in my opinion. I don't care, how many wins they have. What he's doing with that team is truly the indication of great coaching, because that's not a very good roster. Dean Pease, same thing. And I think Atlanta is going to be flirting with the playoffs. I really do. I think if they can get healthy on offense, that's a tough offense to stop. Marcus Mariota protects the football, they run the football, and the defense continues to improve. I think they can flirt with the wild card positioning, especially with the schedule coming up and that division they're in. So at number 21, I've got the Atlanta Falcons. I still think they're a pretty good team. Tennessee Titans at number 20. I've got the Titans at number 20, and this is another team that it doesn't really make a heck of a ton of sense. They're not extremely talented, but Mike Vrabel is just a hell of a coach, man. He's just a very good coach, and you wonder why the Tennessee Titans were such a good football team when they went to the AFC Championship and all that stuff. Well, they had Mike Vrabel as the head coach, they had Arthur Smith as the OC, and they had Dean Pease as the defensive coordinator. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me, right? Well, Mike Vrabel is doing his thing once again. Ryan Tannehill's playing, I think, underrated football right now. He's making enough throws to win games. They're running the football better with Derrick Henry. The offensive line continues to improve. Treylon Burks went down. That was kind of tough to see, but I feel like Robert Woods has been fine. They do need to find some extra weapons to throw the ball to if they want to win some games throwing the football, because they've been fortunate. They've been beating up on bad teams and picking up wins against bad teams. But their defense continues to be good as well. They play physical, and they're not going to go down without a fight. So the Tennessee Titans are at number 20. They're actually first in their division right now, but I do not see them as the best team in their division at number 20. At number 19 is the New York Giants. The Giants are at number 19. They beat the Packers. I mean, I didn't see that one coming. I was cheering for the Giants. I was genuinely interested, genuinely on the edge of my seat, jumping up and down when Saquon Barkley took the wildcat snap for a touchdown. I was absolutely jumping for joy there. But, I mean, 19 for a reason. They're just not very talented. I'm not truly buying into the Giants as a playoff team. I understand that I was on them as a sleeper team. I've been on them in terms of like letting people know this team is pretty competitive and this team is compelling to me. But if they continue this, I just don't see them as a 4-1 football team. It's just they don't have enough talent to be that. I mean, they are that. I get it. They are that. But can they continue it is my question. And they've got a tough schedule coming up. They've got to play a tough football team in the Ravens coming up. We'll see how they do in that game. I'm sure they'll make it tough. I'm sure Wink Martindale will want revenge. Saquon is in the MVP conversation right now. I mean, he should be at least. He's the whole offense for them, and he's had a huge comeback year. Daniel Jones does not get enough respect for the playmaker he has been this year and for the toughness he has really shown. I mean, absolutely. The offensive line play has been a bit better. I thought it was pretty good last week, actually. You know, they did struggle a bit with Rashawn Gary, but every team has kind of struggled with Rashawn Gary. And then the other side of the football, just they don't have a lot of great players, but they play in Wink's scheme very well. They're fundamentally sound. They make plays. They seem to be coached up very well. And they're aggressive, and they get after you. So, and they're not easy to run the ball on. I think the Giants are going to be a competitive wild card team in that conversation, but I just don't know if they can continue the consistency. They just don't have a ton of talent, and especially with the injuries they've been seeing. At number 19 is the New York Jets. The Jets are at 3-2 right now. They are third in this division, or maybe even second at this point. But the Jets are at number 18. I think when I compare the Jets to the Giants have one more win. The Giants are the better story, in my opinion. The Jets have more talent. The Jets are in a tougher situation. But the Jets, I mean, Zach Wilson's 2-0 with this football team. You do have to say that. He did come back on the Steelers. He did win that game, and he did blow out Skylar Thompson's Dolphins there. So they haven't really beat super competitive teams, but they have won, and they are above 500. And when you look at the talent on this team, I think their offense is extremely underrated. I love what they have on offense with Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Tyler Conklin. The offensive line is playing better than the pieces individually. Elijah Vera Tucker leading the pack there. Connor McGovern, very good player. Breece Hall seems to be breaking out. Michael Carter still very good. They've got so many places to go with. Braxton Berrios is another one. Defensively, they play within their scheme well. They do have a talented front seven. They're not easy to run the ball on. Sauce has been locked down as a rookie. I do think we're going to see how good the Jets are truly this week when they play the Packers at Lambeau. If they keep that one close, I'll be more invested in the Jets moving forward. But this is a big test for them and a big step up in competition. At number 17, I've got the Jacksonville Jags, who did lose. They are 2-3, I want to say. Jacksonville is 2-3, and they are technically, not the best team in their division by record. And I understand they lost to the Texans and all that, but when I look at those games, they were mostly based off turnovers. I think I look at a Jacksonville team that is very talented. I look at a Jacksonville team that I do like the coach. I do see the potential in the quarterback, and we've seen the upside of the quarterback this year, but there's been too much inconsistency from Trevor Lawrence, which is why they lost to the Texans. He was not good versus the Texans, and I'm going to give them a pass because it was a divisional game. It happens sometimes in divisional contests. But I do think that offensively, they have the pieces to figure this thing out. I've liked what I've seen from Christian Kirk. I like the running game. The offensive line hasn't been the greatest, but I feel like this defense, man, is the underrated unit in the league right now. Like, they fly around, they make plays, they're not overpowered, they're very quick, they're very fast, they've got good secondary players. I think this defense can hold it down while this offense figures it out and navigates the rough space. I still view this team as the best team in this division and as the favorite to win this division at number 17. At number 16, I've got the Cleveland Browns. The Brownies are at number 16. Kevin Stefanski continues to be on one side, really promising as an offensive schemer and play caller. On another side, just an absolute disaster as an overall head football coach, making decisions and formulating an overall vision of this football team. He's had plenty of opportunity to win some games this year that they just lost. I mean, this team's better than their record. They could have beat the Chargers. They could have beat the Jets. Absolutely. They could have beat the Falcons. All of these games, they have just found ways to lose. The Cleveland Browns are, I do think, overrated defensively. Their run defense got gashed by the worst running offense last week versus the Chargers. Of course, Herbert had his plays. Mike Williams did his thing. But Austin Eckler running all over the Browns is something I did not foresee. I did foresee Nick Chubb and Jacoby Brissett and that offense having success versus the Chargers, which is why I thought they could pull off the upset. But the defense has not been able to live up to their billing, and that's a concern year after year with this football team. I've got the Cleveland Browns at 16. I think they can compete with pretty much every team from a talent perspective, but sometimes their coaching loses them games, and Jacoby Brissett makes bad decisions at the wrong time. So at number 16, I've got the Cleveland Browns. At number 15, I've got the Los Angeles Rams, guys, and this might be being nice, to be honest with you. The Los Angeles Rams are not a very good football team, and they're only trending down, and I'm not believing in this comeback. I'm not believing in the Rams turning this thing around, turning this story around. I think they're dead in the water this year. Maybe they make the 7 seed, maybe, but I think they're kind of dead in the water. Their offensive line is a disaster. They can't block anybody. They can't run block. They can't pass block. They can't protect Matthew Stafford. Every 6, 7, 8 yard completion by Matthew Stafford is some sort of miracle. I mean, the guy's escaping, dipping, ducking, sacks, and he's throwing the ball sidearm through 3 people, ripping it into double coverage, tight window. I mean, what is he supposed to do? He's got one receiver who's actually good. He's phenomenal, Cooper Kupp, but everybody else is below average, if not even NFL starting caliber receiver. And then you've got a running backs who are unreliable, that are bad. Higbee's not the athlete he used to be. He's still reliable enough, but he doesn't separate or make plays. The defense is not as good as last year. They don't dominate the line of scrimmage the way they did last year. They are good against the run, but there's plenty of spaces on their defense, plenty of places to attack in the secondary, not named Jalen Ramsey. So at number 15, the Rams, they're extremely flawed, but they do have McVay, they do have Stafford, they do have Kupp, they do have Donald, so I still got to put them at 15. They've shown that they can beat bad teams, but whenever they've played even an above-average team, they have lost, and lost pretty easily. At number 14, I've got the Raiders. I know this is crazy. They're 1-4, I get it, but they just played the Chiefs as well as any team has played the Chiefs all year. And that includes the game where the Chiefs lost against the Colts. The Raiders easily could have beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. A couple plays didn't go their way, and they didn't have Darren Waller either in the game. So that's huge. I mean, the Raiders, that might be a game where they lose, but that's a momentum builder. They go into their bye week. Yes, they're 1-4, but they come back from the bye week with a pretty easy schedule. I think they'll be able to pile on some wins, get back close to 500, and guys, the way I look at these power rankings, not through records, right? Like I said, not through records. It's through how I look at the team, who I would favor in a game, who I would pick to win a game. And the Raiders offensively are continuously getting better and better and better and better and better under Josh McDaniels. The offensive line is getting better and better. The run game is just playing amazing right now, with Josh Jacobs playing his best football of his career as far as I'm concerned. Darren Waller hasn't really even gotten it going. Hunter Renfrow hasn't even gotten it going. And they're moving the football. And then defensively, I thought they played really admirably against the Chiefs, especially for the first half. I thought their cover guys stood the test. of time. I felt like Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, we finally had a Chandler Jones sighting. Their run defense continues to be pretty superb. I think if they can continue to improve in the back end, they'll be a real dangerous AFC wildcard type of team. If they can get into that playoff race, they just got to rack up wins now. It's just about wins. It's not about style points. It's not about playing it close. You know, they were working through rough patches, adjusting to coaching, adjusting to schemes. I think now that the bye week is here, they're going to be able to explode through the bye week and be a new football team and restart and reset. And that's why I have them at number 14. At number 13, I got the New England Patriots. The Patriots, I mean, I'm honestly I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys. I'm playing this conservatively at number 13. I really look at the Patriots and the way they've played so far this year, and each and every game that they have played, they have gotten better. Each and every game they've gotten better. They've played cleaner football each and every game. They're playing better defense. They're playing better offense. Their offensive line is playing unbelievable. They're running the football better than anybody in football, you know, and the defense is just, they're playing unreal. You know, Jack Jones as a rookie is really flashing. We know their secondary has a ton of depth, way more than last year. They're a faster defense than last year. Their defensive line is playing much better this year. Dietrich Wise stands out. Matt Judon's even better than last year. And then you've got an offense that I think with Mac Jones coming back, this is a top 10 team in the NFL. I mean, Mac Jones just is going to add that explosive passing ability that he was showing in games like the Ravens game earlier this year. And as long as he can cut down on those turnovers, they've found a formula on offense where they're going to be a sneaky good offense. Tyquan Thornton is back. They've found ways to get, you know, Jacoby Myers looks the best he's ever looked. He's in a contract year. Ramondre Stevenson looks incredible. I'm really high on the Patriots right now, guys. I think they're turning the corner. I think they're speeding up. I think they're breaking out. And I expect them to go to Cleveland. I expect them to win, whether it's Mac Jones or Zappy. That's how confident I am in this team. I really like this team, and I think they're well on their way to becoming a top 10 team when they get their quarterback back. So I have the Patriots at number 13. At number 12, I've got the Green Bay Packers. I still got the Packers at 12 because of Aaron Rodgers, pretty much. You know, Aaron Rodgers is still amazing. I think, like, I'm giving Aaron Rodgers more credit than Aaron Rodgers fans are giving him right now. Like, I look at this team and what he's able to do with them, and I think he's playing really good. And I think he's playing just as good as he did in the MVP years in terms of what he's able to do, his physical skill and his mental skill. I think he's superb, but the problem is the offense has become this, like, RPO Tua fest where they're, like, throwing a bunch of 2-yard passes, a bunch of, like, throws behind the line of scrimmage. And then whenever they throw the ball down the field, it's like, here, Aaron Rodgers, throw the ball in double coverage to Randall Cobb and put it, like, right on the money. Like, he just doesn't have a lot to work with at wide receiver. I think Romeo Doubs has stepped up. I think Alan Lazard has shown flashes. I thought Randall Cobb looked really good in London, and looked really good in other games too. He looks faster than he did last year, actually. Robert Tonyan's kind of progressing every week. Aaron Jones is amazing, but for some reason they don't get him the ball. David Bakhtiari continuing to get healthier. I think the offense is starting to hit their stride a bit more, but they do have these lulls in games because they don't have any go-to weapons in the passing game, and their passing game, because of it, is extremely limited. I mean, without Devontae Adams, that, like, the ability to just rely on talent through the drop-back passing game is really, really evident. They don't have a lot of actual great drop-back passing plays. Their best offense comes from their running game, their play action, and their screen game or their RPO games, their quick passing game. Their deep passing game, their intermediate passing game is extremely flawed right now, and that's not a team that can win the Super Bowl. Defensively, they're just flat out overrated. They have a lot of good players. Rashawn Gary is freaking incredible, but their team right now, like, and Kenny Clark's amazing. I think their front four is playing really good, but the linebackers aren't playing that good. The safeties are the safeties in this, like the corners are definitely regressing. Like Stokes and Douglas have regressed big time. And the scheme is bad. Like Joe Barry is not a good football coach. So at number 12, I've got the Green Bay Packers. Matt LaFleur is also a joke. You guys know how I feel about that. At number 11, we've got the Minnesota Vikings. So they beat the Packers earlier this year. These two teams could be flipped. I mean, the Vikings I'm not super confident in either. But they did sort of dominate the Bears through the first half of that game, and then they let their foot off the gas. So these teams that did that this week, there was 3 of them that come to mind. The Bucks did it, the Eagles did it, the Vikings did it. I'm not really punishing them a ton because that's how human beings are. Like, if you've ever played sports and you're blowing a team out before, you tend to kind of relax, and sometimes that can result in teams coming back and making it more interesting than you would have wanted it to be, especially over a grueling season. So I look at the Vikings and I say, like, that's impressive to get up 21-0 or whatever it was at that point in the game, but they're not talented enough to overcome, just taking the foot off the gas. Their defense is flawed. They're not great against the run. They're not good against deep passing. They're just not a great defense in general, and they're a pretty slow defense. That kind of stands out to me. They do have good pass rushers, and that's kind of the saving grace. The offense is pretty darn good, though. I mean, Justin Jefferson, they're getting their run game going with Dalvin Cook. Justin Jefferson's awesome. They're a good offense, but they're not a great offense. I feel like they can be stopped. So they're a good team, kind of like what I thought they would be, but they're not a great team. They're not a great team. So at number 11, I've got the Vikings. At number 10, I've got the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are at number 10. They're really tricky to rank because of the quarterback situation. I think with Tua, they're still a top 10 team, so I still put them at number 10. I think with Teddy Bridgewater, they're still like flirting with the top, 14, 15. Right? I think they're definitely inside the top 15 with Teddy, but probably more so around 15, 14 range. Miami defensively has been a bit disappointing, and I have noticed that when they don't have their corners, they do get exposed because of the amount that they play man coverage. Their pass rush also, from like a 4-man rush standpoint, has been disappointing. They rely too much on blitzing, which is where they get themselves in trouble. And they don't have that flexibility to be a pure coverage team and a 4-man rush team or a blitz man team, which is where they get in trouble because they're very reliant on man blitz because they can't get pressure with 4 right now. So they can't really have that flexibility. On the other side of the ball, they're still really good. I mean, Tyreek Hill, I'm a little worried about that injury thing, but he's incredible. I mean, I was watching the game against the Jets, and guys, I swear, I thought the game was in fast forward. He was running so fast. Like, I think he's gotten faster. Like, it's ridiculous. Jalen Waddle has been a little quiet lately. Maybe that's injury related. The offensive line has still held up a little bit despite Teron Armstead. And Raheem Mostert looks amazing, guys. That's the best story of that team, in my opinion, is Raheem Mostert. After the serious injuries he's had, he's back, man. He looks really, really good. So the Dolphins are getting that run game going, which is going to be essential for them to overcome the loss of their quarterback and potentially their quarterbacks at number 10. At number 9, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are at number 9. The Bengals are, again, I don't love the Bengals. Like, there's a lot of flawed teams in this football league. What I do love about the Bengals is their defense. I think their defense continues to shine. They continue to prepare very well. I think their defensive coordinator, my boy Lou, is in line for a head coaching gig, if not the head coach of this team. I mean, he should be at some point, because Zach Taylor is hugely detrimental to this football team and their offensive success. Joe Burrow, they just don't have the answers in the short intermediate passing game. I mean, Jamar Chase runs like 3 routes, a go, a slant, and a curl. I mean, that's not good enough. They never really utilize motion. They don't utilize enough play action. They don't, create mismatches the way that other great offenses do. And it's detrimental to them. I mean, Joe Burrow, this should be a 5,000-yard passer, and because of the way that they're schemed, they're just not very good on offense. I mean, they just aren't. It's a fact of the matter. Defensively, they're stronger, and they don't have nearly the talent, and it's due to coaching. But I do give credit to the back end of their defense, Chidobe Awuzie, Mike Hilton, they're unsung heroes. Logan Wilson's great. Trey Hendrickson's just an absolute animal, one of my favorite defensive ends to watch, and Sam Hubbard's really consistent. I mean, the Bengals are in the game because of their offensive talent and because of their defense playing so well, but they need to figure out how to better scheme their offense or they're not going to do anything this year. At number 8, the Chargers. The Chargers, they're tough again. Another tough team because their defense right now sucks. I mean, they can't stop anything. Their defensive line, they can't stop the run for a lick. I mean, the high school football team down the road could run the ball for 200 on this team. Joey Bosa is injured. That's a huge loss for them. And it just feels like whenever they lose one or two of their premier pieces, they're just not the same defense, period. End of story. But their offense, Justin Herbert's just an animal. I mean, he's just overcomes whatever. It doesn't matter who you got at receiver. DeAndre Carter, Josh Palmer, I don't think are very good players, but Justin Herbert just laser right into the chest. I mean, I've never seen a quarterback just throw the ball right into a guy's chest so many times. It's absolutely insane. The ball just sticks to the guy's chest. I mean, that's why Gerald Everett is so good this year for them. It's because the ball just literally sticks to his helmet. So he just catches it. But Mike Williams is great. He's playing great. And Keenan Allen, when he comes back, that's going to open up the offense even more. They're getting their ground game going, which I think is essential for them to be a competitor. But I still view this team with a healthy both sides, minus Rashawn Slater, as a B-tier AFC contender. I don't know if they're in that. Without Rashawn Slater, I don't know if they could beat the Bills. But I feel like they're still going to compete with the Chiefs because they're a divisional foe, and that's a tough game, right? But I don't know if they could, like, in an AFC championship or a divisional game, beat a team like the Bills. I just don't know if they have it without Rashawn Slater. At number 7, the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are at number 7. Now, some of this is projection. I don't think they're the number 7 team with Cooper Rush. But with Dak Prescott, I do think they're the number 7 team. They've got, I think, an underrated offense when Dak comes back. I am a little bit worried about left tackle. That might be kind of an aspect to their team that hurts them down the road because that's the guy that continuously gets picked on a bit. But their running game is going to open up more with Dak because people are going to stop stacking the box so much. CeeDee Lamb's been everything we've wanted him to be so far this year, in my opinion. Michael Gallup looks like Michael Gallup. Noah Brown has looked like a good replacement for Cedric Wilson. Dalton Schultz has been dealing with a lot of stuff this year. Hopefully he can be healthy. But defensively, man, they are the surprise dominant unit of the NFL so far. Like, I thought they were going to be a good defense. I thought they would regress, to be honest, because they wouldn't have all these turnovers. They've just gotten so much better from a pass rush standpoint. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence has been awesome. We know Micah Parsons. He's even better than last year. I think the underrated part of their defense is the versatility of it from a scheme standpoint. I think their coverage guys allow them to play both zone and man. I think because they have such athletic linebackers and they've got such a deep linebacking core with Anthony Barr and Leighton Vander Esch and these guys on top of moving Parsons around so much, they can be a good blitzing team. They can be a good 4-man rush team. They can zone you up. They can man you up. Trayvon Diggs is playing great. So I think they're very, very good in all aspects except for really run defense, which is why I wouldn't say they're the best defense, but they're like number 3 or number 4. And that has been good enough to dominate some of these teams. I've told my dad this, who's a Cowboys fan. I feel like the Cowboys would be better off in the AFC because I think their defense is better off playing pass-heavy offenses. When they do play, I want to see how they respond to playing a team like the Eagles this week who will run the ball down their throat. That is the concern for me. At number 6, they play we have the 49ers. We have the San Francisco 49ers at number 6. The 49ers are dealing with a ton of injuries. If they weren't, I'd maybe move them up one more spot. But the 49ers, man, I could easily see this team going and winning the Super Bowl if they can maintain a decent amount of health. Trent Williams isn't playing right now, but somehow they're getting better on offense. Jimmy Garoppolo is playing efficient football. The EPA king, man. Deebo Samuel is Deebo Samuel. George Kittle is getting a little bit more involved with each and every week that he's healthy. I think Jeff Wilson looked faster last week. Maybe it was just getting time off with Tevin Coleman helping them out, who also looked pretty good. And Brandon Ayuk. He led the team in receiving this past week. Defensively, they're dominant. I mean, they're the best defense in football. Nick Bosa is just Defensive Player of the Year right there with Parsons. He's injured right now, so we'll see how they respond. But I'm not too worried because they have such ridiculous depth. I mean, the rookie Drake Jackson stands out. Hyder stands out. And they're able to overcome all the injuries because of all the layers of depth they have. And I will be interested to see how they replace Emmanuel Mosley because I thought he was playing great. And that combination between Mosley and Charvarius Ward was real underrated. I do think Jason Verrett is going to step into that spot. And Jason Verrett, man, when he's healthy, he can be pretty good. So the 49ers are at number 6. They're really good. They're really well coached on both sides. At number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson. I don't think I have to say anything else. They have Lamar Jackson. They also have Mark Andrews, and the offensive line's getting healthier with Ronnie Stanley there. I do want to see them potentially make a move at the trade deadline for a receiver, whether that's DJ Moore or somebody else. They should look to add a receiver to complement Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews because they definitely missed Rashad Bateman in that game versus the Bengals. If they think in this AFC they're going to win the AFC with an average defense and no legit receiver depth, they're not realistic. And the Ravens are close enough to where they should send a second round pick to the Panthers for a game-breaking receiver like DJ Moore. They should do that because they're close enough. And with DJ, a talent like DJ Moore, it would specifically be a great fit because he's basically Devin Duvernay on absolute roids. So I think that the Ravens could benefit greatly from a receiver, but their run game's starting to get it going. Their defense is playing better. They're playing better coverage. They're playing better man coverage, and their defense is figuring out what they're doing well. Marcus Williams got hurt. I don't think he'll play this week, but the Ravens are playing better on defense. Still good on offense. Lamar did not play his best game, and they still won. So that speaks for itself. At number 4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I almost moved the Bucs up one more spot, but, them allowing the Falcons back in the game and not covering that game soured me a little to doing that. But the Bucs are number 4. Look, the passing game, when it's cooking, when it's healthy, I think they are the best passing game in the NFL. Right now, they've got to figure out how to run the ball, like a little bit. And this is where it's important. I mean, games like we saw against the Falcons, they're up 21-0. They're thoroughly dominating the game through 3 quarters. They've got to be able to lean on the run a bit more than they have because the running game is just not working for them. I think it's more of an offensive line thing. Honestly, as much as I love Lenny and as great as he's been as a receiver specifically, I think they should give a little bit more work to Rachaad White in the running game. But I look at the Bucs, and that's my biggest worry about them right now is like that lack of balance offensively to be able to get the hard yards when they need it. At the end of the games, in short yardage, they were unable to convert a 4th and 1. I think that has a lot to do with missing Ryan Jensen at center, but their pass protection since getting Donovan Smith back has been superb, like very good. They've thrown the ball 50 times the last 2 games, and they've not really dealt with much pressure. On defense, though, they were flying around once again last week. They are dealing with a couple injuries. Keem Hicks will come back. Logan Ryan will come back. But, man, they're a top 5 defense. They're maybe not a thoroughly dominant unit like we thought maybe early in the year, but they're very, very, very good. So, at number 4, the Tampa Bay Bucs. And they've got Tom Brady. That helps. At number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles. So I got the Eagles at number 3 and the top team in the NFC. I did move them down just because they failed to cover against the Cardinals. I had them as a best bet. It was only 5 points they had to cover. They couldn't beat the Cardinals by 6. I think that's disappointing. The Eagles, I have noticed a little bit more flaws recently, the last 2 weeks, just in terms their passing game has not been that efficient, that effective, that consistent. Their running game is good, but for whatever reason, they're passing it too much. I think they got to lean on the run a little bit more because they've got a great offensive line. I understand you got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, but Jalen Hurts is better when he can work off that running game. Defensively, they're better than I thought they would be. They've got a lot of talent, but the scheme has married the talent. They did get a little tired against Kyler Murray. They took the foot off the gas a little bit later in the game, but they've been really good against both the pass and the run, and they've been able to play more man coverage this year thanks to James Bradberry. I think this defense is, if they continue to play that way, they've got a very balanced roster and a balanced team that I'd put up against any team in the NFC. At number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. Got the Chiefs at 2. Despite, maybe the less than stellar performance on Monday night, they did win the game, but I think many would have looked at that game and said, the Raiders could have easily won, or the Raiders were better in the game. But that's the Chiefs for you. They're going to win some games this year like that where they don't play that well. They get outplayed, but they win. And that's Patrick Mahomes. That's Travis Kelce. That's Andy Reid for you. They overcome. So the offensive line has been pretty darn good, but Orlando Brown has been getting beat like a drum, to be honest with you. The receivers, I thought, stepped up big time. Valdez-Scantling had a good game. I thought Juju made some plays. Mecole Hardman made some plays. They sprinkled in enough playmakers in that game to keep the Raiders off balance, even with Travis Kelce only having 25 yards. Everybody talks about the 4 touchdowns, but they were able to score 30 points with Travis Kelce only catching 25 yards worth of their yards. Running game is back to being kind of bad. It was really good against the Bucs and then really bad against the Raiders. And that's a worry for me because can it be consistent? Because when it's not consistent, they just forget about it and they just don't ever run again. So that's where the concern comes in with an Andy Reid offense, is when he doesn't have confidence in the run, they become predictable and they become easy to stop that way. Not easy, but you know what I mean. More easy, I guess. More predictable. Defensively, they've shown that they can have good games, but this secondary is extremely flawed. The corners can definitely be had, as we've seen the last couple of weeks. They give up way too many yards to the best weapon on the other team. I mean, way too many yards. And Diggs will be a tough test for them. So we'll see how that goes against the Bills. I think the Chiefs are very good. I don't think they're unbeatable by any stretch of the imagination. But they are very good, and it's because Mahomes is playing great football. It's because they're finding ways to attack defenses in a multitude of ways, and because their defense makes enough plays in a game to put them on top. Chris Jones is unreal. At number 1, the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills are number 1. They just absolutely spank the bottom of the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. Gabriel Davis had the most fantasy points for any wide receiver. Had huge plays, had a ridiculous catch for a long touchdown. Stephon Diggs is phenomenal. Josh Allen, for my money, best quarterback there is in football today. Running game isn't great, but it's fine. And they've got a lot of depth at receiver to overcome injuries and things of that nature. Defensively, they're playing great. Their scheme is great. And I do think the Bills have probably the most underrated home field advantage in the league right now. I think their fans really give them a ton of energy, and they build upon that energy, and they kind of steamroll teams from that standpoint. And their defense is playing really good despite the injuries, and they're very well coached on both sides. So the Bills are the number 1 team in the NFL. It's not saying they don't have flaws or weaknesses or things to point to, but they're the most dominant, best team that I would favor over everybody in football right now. Thank you guys for watching. It's Mitch. Gronk, spike the like button. Let's say hello to people in the chat before I go. That's your power rankings for week number 6, week number 5, whatever you want to call it. Ben says Chiefs-Bills showdown Sunday. Absolutely should be a great game. Can't wait for it, man. Big Al says grab a seat. We having bots for dinner. I love it, Big Al. I love it. Jeremy's in the chat. Kevin's in the chat. Absolutely blasphemous to not have the Lions in the top 5 worst teams, but have the Bucks and Eagles. I don't know what you mean by that. I have the Bucks and the Eagles in the top 5. Big Al says, not mad at this, still pissed over the game. Becca is in the chat. What's up? Caesar, what's going on, bro? Matt's in the chat. He says the Pats at 13 is insane. Brandon is in the chat. Says the Raiders are way too high. Okay. Elliot says, I'm a Pats fan, but they're way too high. Okay. Big Al says they're coming. Yes, sir. They're coming, the Patriots. Zach Wilson's mom's friend says, let's go Jets. Harley Quinn was in the chat. Thank you. Wave God was in the chat. The Falcons. Let's go. Tessa was in the chat. Thank you guys for joining. Appreciate it. And we will see you very soon. Best bets tomorrow versus the spread. Also, weekly picks. Every game versus the spread and straight up. So see you then live tomorrow. It's Mitch. Thanks for the support. See ya.